am the Senior Vice President of Bracing for Impact. I have spent most of my life living scared. I wasn't scared of what actually was. I was scared of what might almost, kind of, sort of, nearly, maybe happen, and then whatever disaster would follow that. I want this video to ruin fear for you. I want you to see it for what it is. It is not protection. It is not wisdom. Fear doesn't want you safe. It wants you prepared to suffer, just in case. So it robs whatever peace you've got and calls it strategy. It wants you sleep deprived, emotionally bankrupt, and watching YouTube videos on how to perform CPR on your dog, just in case. I know all of the symptoms of a heart attack, where the nearest hospital is, and drug interactions for things that I'm not even on, just in case. That's how committed I was to disaster cosplay. I own a blood pressure cuff, not because I need one, but because my anxiety wanted a toy. Okay, I lied. I actually own two, and then I use them both, and then I take the average number, just in case. Fear was the logic I used to plan my future, the voice I listened to when I made decisions. I didn't think that I was afraid. I thought that I was aware. That's what fear does when it's been around long enough. It starts branding itself as insight. And here's the thing, being afraid never saved me from anything. This isn't about anxiety, and this isn't a list of phobias. This is a postmortem on emotional hoarding. This is about the life that I lost to disasters that mostly only ever existed in my head. There's no prize for pre-suffering, people, and you don't get a vigilance trophy for emotionally bracing yourself 24/7. You don't get peace, you don't get joy, you just get robbed, slowly, stupidly, when nothing is actually even happening. And if something finally does happen, you're too used up to even deal with it. The list of what I'm afraid of is longer than what I'm not afraid of. And this is the part that I hate admitting because none of this makes any sense, but my brain doesn't care about sense. It cares about threat level. Fear lives in the what ifs. And once you start asking those questions, your brain never stops answering them. You might think that everyone's brain does this. They don't. If your brain does this too, then you already know what this is costing you and why I want to ruin it. I'm scared of crowds, loud noises, malls, mold, traffic, semi-trucks, airplane bathrooms, a cough in a restaurant. Thank you, COVID. I now treat every public cough like a death rattle and scan dining rooms like I'm on a CDC recon mission. I'm scared of emails with no subject lines, texts that just say K, which obviously stands for keep spiraling. And truly, I've always been afraid of quicksand because apparently every Gen Xer thought that they'd encounter that weekly. Here's something that I realized though. Half the time, I wasn't even scared of the thing that I said I was scared of. That was just the thing that I could name. I'm not necessarily afraid of flying. I'm afraid of being humiliated. What if my butt is too big for the airplane bathroom and I get stuck and they have to do like an emergency landing and the fire department comes and there's not enough butter to like slick my heavy duty juicy booty to get it out, and now everyone on the plane is late for their meetings? And what if someone was going to a funeral and oh my gosh, I totally ruined a death? Now an entire plane of strangers hates me and I will forever be known as that chick that ruined the flight with her emergency ass extraction. I just won't risk it. I'm just not going to use the bathroom at all. But once I get to the destination, what if I get lost in that strange city and I accidentally offend a local crime syndicate and get trafficked into some underground linen folding operation where I die ironing napkins? What if I get stung by a bee and go into anaphylactic shock in the public park and someone has to cut my pants off while strangers film it and put it on TikTok? And then I survive, but now I'm alive, pantsless, trending, and somehow responsible for a GoFundMe that I didn't even authorize. Basically, if your brain has ever prepped for an allergic reaction to a bee that hasn't even stung you yet, we should probably hang out. My brain is a 24-hour panic buffet, and fear is the house special. That example was funny, I know. That's really one of the only things that I can say out loud. The other fears are deeper and much worse. Death, my husband being hurt, my dog getting sick, me choking at home while I'm alone, accidents, money, work, just this looping constant fear that doesn't deserve a punchline. That's what fear does. It dresses up like caution, like responsibility, like insight, but it's not protecting you. It's just distracting you. It gives you fake problems to focus on so you don't have to face the real one. You don't think that you'll survive the actual pain because deep down you don't trust your own capacity to adapt. So you plan for every outcome like having control will save you, and your brain makes you rehearse it. Technically, it's called catastrophic thinking. I call it a normal day. That's what all the prep is for. That's what the what ifs are covering. We're not afraid of worst case scenarios. We're afraid of not making it through them. That kind of vigilance becomes its own addiction. You start thinking like you need it, like if you stop bracing, you'll get blindsided. I thought fear made me realistic. I thought it kept me grounded. But all it really did was keep me stuck. I didn't take the risk. I didn't say the thing. I didn't enjoy the win. I just moved from one internal evacuation drill to the next, like if I stayed nervous enough, nothing could catch me off guard. I thought I was outsmarting fate. But someday, something awful will happen, and you'll realize that fear didn't spare you. You'll realize that you lived it twice, once in fear and once for real, and neither one of them felt like living. You can't pre-suffer your way into safety. You can't rehearse devastation like it's a fire drill and expect it to hurt less when it hits. All you can do is trade time you'll never get back for a false sense of control that was never real to begin with. What really pisses me off about fear is that my good days were worse than my bad ones. I mean, how does that even make sense? There were stretches of time, months, maybe even years, where technically there was nothing wrong. Bills were paid. No one was in the hospital. I could breathe without a panic attack, but I didn't trust it. I just kept waiting for something. Because when nothing's wrong, I don't feel safe. I feel exposed. I feel like I've missed a warning sign. Calm doesn't feel comforting. It feels like bait. Because when things are good, that's when the stakes are the highest. Fear doesn't show up to ruin the bad days. It shows up to warn you to not get too attached. Like if I smile too long, the universe is going to be like, up, she's too comfortable. Send in the murder hornets. And every time I felt a little bit better, every time things looked stable, I'd immediately start rehearsing disaster again. What if this? What if that? Fear makes you the punchline of your own life. You get a good day and your brain immediately flashes forward to who's going to die. You finally exhale, and fear taps you on the shoulder with their smug little smirk and says, don't get cocky. You laugh at something, and fear says, ha, well, enjoy that while it lasts. I thought that if I braced hard enough, I'd be ready. But bracing doesn't make you strong. It just makes you tired. I didn't get better at surviving. I just got worse at living. What's something that fear talked you out of, but you still think about? A trip? A risk? A moment you bailed on just because you were too busy bracing? Was it worth it? Let me know in the comments. Fear doesn't scream, it narrates. It sounds like a really mean Morgan Freeman. It tells you its logic. It gives you charts and graphs and bullet points and says, I'm just trying to be practical. It sounds like strategy. It tells you that you're just being realistic while it slowly turns your whole life into a risk assessment exercise. Fear is persuasive, and it has excellent branding. It tells you if you expect the worst, it won't hurt as much, right? If you never hope, you'll never be disappointed. If you worry hard enough, maybe nothing bad will happen. But all fear ever did was convince me that love was dangerous, that joy was a trap, and that anything I couldn't control was a liability, and that included myself. Fear charged me full price for a pain that I hadn't even earned yet, and I just kept swiping my card. And when the storm finally hit, all that rehearsing didn't help. I just lived it twice, and neither one felt any less brutal. And if the storm never came, well, then I just wasted perfectly good energy and time prepping for something that never showed up. Good job, Sheila. Good job. Fear is not a precaution. It's a parasite. Fear will waste your friendships. It'll waste your vacations. It'll waste your perfectly fine Sunday because you started imagining a tragic Monday. It'll ruin your dinner over symptoms that just turned out to be gas. And it wasn't even dramatic gas. It was just mid-tier from too many vegetables. And guess what? When the shit actually hits the fan, fear's off the clock. They're like, yeah, well, this seems like a you problem. So if fear isn't there for me when I need it and it doesn't keep me safe, why do we keep listening to it? I wish that that was the end of this story, that I figured it out and I moved on, I healed, that I just got to be done. But no, I still spiral. I still build entire tragedies out of nothing but silence. I still do a lot of things just in case. I still cancel imaginary plans in case I get tired from emergencies that haven't happened yet. I just finally know that it's not helping. Fear still shows up for me, but now I can name it and I could say, there you are again, you smug little bastard. You're still loud and you're still wrong. And yeah, I know this comes from trauma. I know why my brain does this, but knowing doesn't always help. I wish I'd understood it sooner and not in my 50s. That's why I'm saying it out loud to you now, because if you're still in it, maybe you don't have to wait as long. I used to think that fear was my co-pilot. Now I know it's more like a toddler with a map yelling directions from the trunk. It still screams, but I don't reroute my whole life every time it opens its mouth. I once coughed in a weird way, and I spent the next hour Googling rare lung tumors while texting my husband to covertly check his availability, just in case he has to drive me to the hospital. Honestly, at this point, half my one-on-ones are just confirming that you're not dying. Book a time if you want someone to support you while Googling, is this mole fatal? I still ruin perfectly good days by imagining worse ones. I still cancel plans that I haven't even made yet because something might go wrong and I don't want to be tired for the imaginary emergency. But now I can see it, and that's something. I can see that fear doesn't serve me. It recruited me. It trained me. And it took years before I realized that I wasn't being careful. I was being consumed. I treated fear like it was a religion. I tithed in sleepless nights. I worshiped at the altar of what if. But the church never saved me. It just kept me too busy planning for disasters to remember that I was allowed to enjoy anything. I've lived long enough now to see what fear actually steals from you, and it's not just your peace. It's your presence. It's the version of you who could have enjoyed what was still okay. It's the simple moments, the good days, the part of the story where nothing's falling apart yet, but you missed it because you were too busy practicing a fictional disaster for absolutely no reason. That's what I want you to hear, not because I fixed it, but because I didn't, and I wish someone had ruined fear for me sooner. I spent decades thinking that I was just being prepared, and by the time I realized what it was taking, joy wasn't the only thing that I'd buried. I want this to get under your skin. I want it to interrupt your next spiral. I want you to hear my voice when you're ruining your next nice dinner over something that hasn't even happened yet. Because I didn't realize what it was taking until it was already gone. Fear isn't insight. It's instinct gone feral, and I don't follow it anymore. I don't build my life around it. I let it pass through me like a Colorado weather report. Loud, inconvenient, and mostly wrong. You don't need to be fearless. That's not a real expectation. So now I know what fear costs me. But there's something that it hid from me too. Not just the time that I lost, but the lie underneath it, that I had to be fixed to move forward. That the life I kept bracing for, it was already happening, and we're going there next. And it's not what you've been told.